everyone. I hope you're ready for another great week. This week we are going to talk about lessons 117 through 120. So let's get started. This week you're going to need the lessons manual, the student worksheet book, the math card games manual with the game cards. You will also need a penny, nickel, dime, and quarter. This week your child is going to learn more about money and also have a review lesson. Let's get started by turning to lesson 117. Now, the review section is going to review coin values. After the review, you will play a card game called Make 27 Cents game. Now, this game is played just like the Make 16 Cents game that you played last week, which also has a blog for it. So in this case, instead of making 16 cents, though, you're going to make 27 cents. Now look at the section called Writing Dollars and Cents. In this section, you are going to teach your child how to correctly write dollars and cents. You're going to discuss the decimal point and also how to read money when it's listed in dollar and cents format. So for example, in your lesson manual, we'll see $2.35. You will discuss where you get to that decimal point. So you have 2.35. Wherever you have that decimal point is where you're going to say the word and. So $2.35. You will also have your child read and write different dollar values on that first page of the lesson. Now, on the second page of the lesson, you're going to compare writing time with writing money. So, for example, whenever the minute is less than 10, you write 02. So if it's like 3:02, 3 o'clock, 2 minutes after 3, you write 3:02. And you're going to do the same thing with money. So if you have $3.02, you need to write 3.02. You need to have 2 digits. So this activity is going to really help them remember and learn that they need to have 2 digits after that decimal point when they write dollar values. You will follow up that instruction with practice, writing different dollar amounts, dollar and cents amounts. And then you're going to, in the section called Reading Dollar Amounts, you're going to write down a various amounts of money values and have your child read it back to you. Do as many activities in these sections as needed to make sure your child is able to communicate both in writing and verbally how to write and read money values. Then you're going to have your child play the game Corners with Dimes. Now this game is played just like Corners, but it changes how the scoring is done. So each point is valued at 10 cents. So if the score is normally calculated at 5 points, so I have a 1 and a 4 that I'm connecting, and I would normally get 5 points for that. For this one, it would be considered as 5 dimes, which is valued at 50 cents. If the score is 15, or normally is calculated at 15, the score for this particular version of the game would be $1.50. Also, if your child is learning their multiplication math facts, make sure you finish this lesson by playing a multiplication math card game. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 118. In the warm-up section, actually is going to ask you questions, asking your child questions on how to calculate dollars and cents. You will then play the game called Make the Amount game. We do have a blog for that game, and it is called 2017 Summer Game Number 11, Make the Amount. Look at the section called Tenths. Now, this section will introduce the concept of tenths, 1/10 of something, and help your child see how it works with money, as well as what it does to the decimal point when calculating tenths of different dollar amounts. Now, this section starts with asking your child, what is 1/10 of $1,000? Make sure you give your child time to think about it. Don't just jump in helping them. Let them think about it, let them struggle. But if they do get to a place where they really struggle with this idea and they really don't know how to answer that, go ahead and walk them through this process by asking questions. Now, just so you know, a couple of my kids also struggle with this. So I stepped back and gave them a few questions. Some of my questions were splitting tenths is sort of like dividing 1,000 into how many groups? Well, they're splitting 1/10 is they're splitting it into 10 groups. So if I split $1,000 into 10 groups, how much money goes into each group? Again, giving them time to think about it. Now, for a couple of my kids, working with $1,000 was a little too large for them. So I stepped it back a little bit and we just dealt with 100, and I let them explore that concept using the abacus. I would show them the abacus, how many beads are on the abacus, 100. So let's pretend each bead is worth $100. So what would be 1/10 of $100? How would I split this up? And they would say, oh, okay, 10. So I would say, okay, well then how many, if I split that up and it split $100 up into groups of 10, how many groups are there? There are 10. And then I would follow up with the question, what happened? And I would actually write it down, or they would write it down. And I would ask them, what did you notice between $100 and $10? What are you noticing is the difference? And a couple of my kids said, well, it's one less than zero. I would actually kind of just linger on that decimal point until they saw that movement. And then I would continue on down through the lower denominations. And then I came back up to the $1,000 denomination, because by then they saw that pattern of that decimal point moving in that number. Make sure you make a really big deal out of what they are observing with that decimal point, because they're going to need that information next year when they work heavily with percents. Then you're going to play the game called Corners with Pennies. Again, this game is played just like the original Corners game, but the scoring is different. Each point represents 1 cent. So if I were to, in the normal game, if I were to score 5 points, in this game, it'd be 5 cents. 15 points would be 15 cents. Also, if your child is still working on their multiplication math facts, make sure you are including multiplication math card games. All right, well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 119. The warm-up section for this, or in the warm-up section, your child is going to complete the top part of worksheet 96. The solutions are found in the lesson manual. You will then follow up with just a couple questions, asking your child to calculate the value of money based on a fraction. So what is half of $6.60 and so forth. One of the questions is, what is 1/4 of $4? So make sure you let your child kind of fuddle through that. And you want to make sure that they understand how to calculate that. Now for this lesson, you will really just work through the problems listed on worksheet 96. Now, when we do that, remember to give your child quiet time to think. Allow them to solve these problems on their own. Don't guide them too much. If they absolutely need you to help them, then go ahead but give as minimal amount of assistance as necessary. Make sure that they're working as much as they can on their own. And then also have them explain their answers at the end, because that's going to really solidify it for them. Now, these problems are pretty straightforward. The solutions are provided within each segment between each word problem. Make sure your child reads through each word problem a couple times before they start to solve the problem. There is a suggested math card game of change from 50 cents. And then again, of course, if your child is still working on those multiplication math facts, make sure you also include a multiplication math card game as well. Let's turn to lesson 120. Now, this is the very last review and games lesson for level D, except for the review lessons that are prior to the assessment lessons at the end of the year. Make sure you give your child only one of the two worksheets, either 97A or 97B. And then if your child struggled with any concept or problem within this worksheet, go back and do either a full lesson or part lesson or a group of lessons that cover that topic. If you so desire, after you do all of that review, go ahead and give your child the second worksheet for them to complete at a later date. Don't do it the same day of the review, just to make sure that they understood what they review. As always, I'm going to give you the lesson numbers to review for the problems that your child either missed or struggled with. Now, if your child struggled with problem number 1, which is 80 cents times 2, review lesson 119, or you can play math card games to review the multiplication math facts. For problem 2, which is 1/2 of $4.40, review lessons 117, 118, 119, or they can review lesson 74 if it's a struggle with the fraction idea. For problem 3, which is 63 divided by 9, play math card games to review and practice their multiples of 9. For problem 4, which is 100 minus something equals 38, review lessons 7, 8, and 9. For problem 5, which is 720 divided by 9, play math card games to review their multiples of 9. For problem 6, which is 75 cents plus 75 cents, review lessons 117, 118, and 119. For problem 7, which is 8,905 times 7, review lessons 63 and 64. Or you can review lesson 65 if they struggled with their check numbers, or you can play math card games to review their multiples of 7. For problem 8, which is 7,839 plus 8,695, review lessons 5 and 6. For problems 9 and 10, which are the time problems, review lesson 97. For problems 11 through 14, which are the different kinds of lines, parallel, perpendicular, etc., and angles, review lessons 114 and 116. For problem 15, which is the first word problem, review lessons 111 and 113. And there is a note to that I'll get to in just a minute. In problem 16, which is the second word problem, review lessons 117, 118, and 119. Now, both those word problems are going to be also working on thinking skills, not just arithmetic. So you may actually need to just talk your child through the logic rather than looking at a specific lesson, or maybe in addition to looking at a specific lesson. The math card game listed for this lesson is Equal Quotients Game, which you've played previously. It also has a blog as well, so you can feel free to look that up if you don't remember how it is played. Again, if your child is learning or still learning or struggling with their multiplication math facts, make sure that you play a multiplication math card game focusing on those specific needs. Well, that's it for the week. If you have any questions or concerns about a lesson, or if your child is struggling with something, give us a call or email us. We're here to help. I look forward to seeing you next week as we look through lessons 121 through 124. Have a great week, everybody.